In our previous lessons, we have created an employee entity and we have also created an employee service to perform CRUD operations. Now in this lesson, we will create a view. When it comes to views in WPF, views are nothing but your XAML user interface that is created either with the help of a window, or you can create it with the help of a page, as well as you can create it with the help of a user control. User controls are elements which can be reused with multiple different windows, as well as you can reuse them in multiple different pages. So for this view, I am going to take help of user control, and all my views I'm going to create them inside views folder. So here we will create a view that can allow us to work with this employee. That is, we should have certain controls to accept values for ID, name and age. We should have certain controls to display these values to the user, as well as we should have certain buttons to issue some commands to perform different operations. So first of all, we will right click the views folder here and we'll add a new view. We'll say add new item, and from here we will select WPF user control. I'll give it a name, say employee view. First of all, we will design this particular view so that we can have a heading, then we will have text box for accepting ID, we'll have a text box for name, we'll have a text box for age, we will also have a set of buttons, we will have a label to display a message to the user, and finally we will have a data grid to display the information to the user. And I'm going to create two columns with the help of grid, as well as one row for the heading, one row for ID, one row for name, one row for age, one row for putting my buttons, one row for the label, so that once we add an employee and all, we should be able to display a message, and finally one row to display all employees inside a grid. So in total we are going to have 7 different rows here. So we will switch to XAML and we go ahead and create our view. Okay, so first of all we'll say grid dot row column definitions. First we will define the columns. So column definition, we'll give it a width, column definition, again a width, say entire available space star. 2 columns we got, and I forgot to close it. Actually, we can take 1 star, should be fine. For the first one we can give it auto, right? Then we'll also have certain padding as well for our elements. Next we'll define the rows, grid dot row definitions. So 7 rows I need. So row definition, I'm going to copy this and paste it 6 times. 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Fine. We can define the height also, but for now I'm going to leave it as it is. And we will also specify certain margin for it, say 15 from all sides, and in case now in the grid we will put our controls. So first of all I need one text block that can display the heading. So we'll take a text block, we'll give it a text, say employee management. This is the text that we want to display, and we will also specify where exactly it should appear in the grid. We'll say grid dot row 0 and grid dot column 0, and I want to span it to two different columns, so I'll say grid dot column span equals to 2. And we will also specify some font size, say font size, say 20, looks fine. And font weight also will make it a bit bold, and I want it in the center, so I will also specify here horizontal alignment to center. So this one is done. Next, we need one more text block that can display this label for ID. So again, we'll add a text block here. We'll give it a text, say enter ID, and this one should go to row 1 and column 0. We'll say grid dot row equals 1 and grid dot column equals, say 0. So we have one. So just like this, I need one for name, I need one for age as well. So I'll just do a copy paste, name and age, and this one goes to row 2 and this one goes to row 3. Then after that, we need our text boxes, so we will go ahead and add the text box. We'll say text box, text will not give any text, we'll give them names. So I'll give it a name as txt id, and we'll specify the location, say grid dot row equals 1 and grid dot column equals 1. So one text box we got. Just like that, we need few more text boxes. So this one will name it as txt name, and this one goes to the next row, that is row 2, and this one will name it as txt age, and it goes to row 3. So far so good. We got our labels, we got our text boxes. Now down below here we need buttons, and below the buttons we need a label that can display a message to the user, and finally we need a data grid. So we'll go ahead and add that also. All the buttons, I'm going to put them inside a stack panel, so I'll take help of a stack panel, and I want all the buttons to go horizontally, so we'll give the orientation to horizontal, and we'll specify the location for the stack panel as grid dot row, it's going to be the 4th row, and grid dot column, it's going to be the 1st column. So inside this column we'll have our stack panel wherein we will have all the buttons. Now we go ahead and create a button, say button name equals to btn add, this is the name for the button. We'll also give the content, say add. So like this, we need four buttons, one for search also, say btn search. We'll give the text as search for it. For this one, once again, say btn update. For the text, we'll give update. Change this to uppercase. And finally, I need one more button, say button. I can do a paste because I have already copied it, say btn delete, and for text we'll keep it as delete. All 4 buttons are done. Now below the stack panel, I need a label wherein I can display my messages. Once an employee is added, I want a message. Once an employee is updated, again I want a message, and during add, if there are any exceptions, I want to display that also in the form of messages. So go ahead and add a text block again, because our messages will display it inside a text block. So I'll give it a name, say txt message, or instead of txt block message, and will not give it any text. We will only specify the location. We'll say grid dot row, this is going to be the 5th row, and it will be present in the column 1. So we'll say grid dot column, right below my buttons I want it, so I'll put it in column 1. So we got our text block, and finally in this one what we need is a data grid. So here we'll simply add a data grid. Data grid. Now there is a difference between grid and data grid. Grid is only for layout of your user interface, whereas a data grid can generate rows and columns based on the data which is present inside a collection. So we'll take a data grid and we'll give it a name, say DG employees, because all employees I'm going to display here. And auto generate columns also I'll set it to false for now, and we will specify the location of the grid. Say data grid is going to be present in row 6 and row 6, and it's going to be in the column 1, row 6 and column 1. All right, now for these rows we will also specify the height. So for this one I will specify auto. For all of them I'm going to give auto height. We'll just fix all of it in a minute. User interface is not looking very good, but we'll fix it in a minute. Now we have given auto height, as well as we will also give the width as well. Okay, this is fine. Now I'm going to select all these controls one by one by holding down control. I'm clicking on the controls one by one by holding down control here. Data grid, as well as, actually should have first selected this text block. Now we'll click on the data grid. Yeah. Now I'll go to properties and I will change few properties over here. Say margin. So from left we'll specify 5, from top we'll give 8, from bottom again 8. Actually this is again we'll give 5, 8, 8. Top bottom will give 8, 8. Okay, and also we'll specify padding for these elements. So we'll give the padding as 3, 3, 3, 3, all 4 sides. All right, and we can increase finally the size of this user control. Okay, now this user control we will add it to our main window that we have here. So we will go back to main window.xaml and we will add the user control here. So we switch to XAML. First of all, this user control is created inside this folder called as views. So it is present inside one namespace. If you see here, it's present inside this namespace MVVM demo.views, and the name of the control is employee view. So we need to first include that namespace in our XAML here, and once we include the namespace, then we can go ahead and add the user interface element. So here we'll say XMLNS. The way we include the namespaces in XAML is with the help of XML namespaces syntax. So we'll give it a prefix, say VW for view equals to, and we will specify our namespace MVVM demo.views. Now I can go back finally over here to this window. Inside the grid I can add my user control. I'll say VW, that is using this prefix we will create an object of the user control, that is employee view. That's all. Now let's run and see how it looks. How our UI is looking right now. This grid is not having any data, so it's not showing anything, but once we add some data and all, then it will look a bit better. All right, so this is just the view what we have created in this demo. In the next demo we will start implementing our view model, and we will also do data binding with this particular view.